Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to be installing the shifter. It's a nice bit of gear there from CAE, California Engineering I think. That'll be mounted on this base plate in the center. We can also see that the main floor section here of the cabin is in place. I won't spend too much time sort of running over the installation of that because you've probably seen paneling more than you'd ever want to. We'll also install the footrest there for the passenger, which I think will be pretty useful to them. I'll be covering all of this stuff in carpet obviously, so in one sense its final finish probably isn't that critical, but I'll be taking as much care as I usually do installing that. I will be putting some heat protection and also some sound deadener just between that panel so that you don't get the race car sort of bombardment with rocks and stones and all that sort of stuff all smashing up into the underside of the car as you drive down the road. We also might get the seats in position, so I'll mark those out and get those drilled. I mounted the seat runners the other day, so that was quite nice to have a look at those in the end. We will need to just get these in the car and get a bit of an idea about the seating position and make sure everything's in the right sort of location. I'll show you the carbon shroud that sits over the handbrake there and also the shifter as well, which is a pretty cool piece of equipment. As much as I'd like to leave that completely exposed, you still can see a fair portion of it, which is quite nice. These shifters, incidentally, you can actually fit them to quite a few different cars. I've seen there's a guy who has a Miata, I think his name's Greg Peters, Car Passion on YouTube. He runs one in his car, which is pretty cool. You can also fit them to Renault Meganes, and I've seen a couple of people fit them to Lotus, particularly the early generation cars where you're a bit jealous of the latest series, Exige 350 and 410 and so forth, where they have the exposed linkage from the factory and it looks absolutely awesome. This is sort of the token gesture towards that. And my delivery should also be coming in, which should give me all the stuff that I've been waiting for and been promised for so long, but it just seems to be very, very slow in getting here. That'll be my gearbox brakes, finally my brake line, so that I can get these boxes finished off and get all of that installed. So we will start to progress pretty quickly, which is quite good. The aim is always to get this thing on the road by March, so I'm going to see how I go with that. A little bit of time across Christmas might be well spent, just finally getting stuck into a couple of these bigger jobs and getting a single hit out at it. Anyway, as always, leave some comments down below if there's any questions that you have. Share your projects if you want to get in on some of the giveaways. Otherwise, all the best. Cheers. Very excited, box finally arrived, so we'll get it stuck into unpacking this thing. Alright, so here's all my shit that we're going to move into my garage. One thing that is good to see, that isn't actually on like sort of the inclusions list, is just what you're actually getting in terms of even items like starter motors, engine mounts, adapter plates. All those sorts of things are really important things to cover when you're building a car like this, because you can find that you can add $5,000 or $10,000 pretty easily, believe it or not, just through those parts and not knowing that they're required, and you'll find them out at the time where you probably run out of money and run out of a bit of enthusiasm, and that's why you get a lot of cars that don't end up being finished. But look, pretty excited. I did notice there's an AP racing box here at the back, which I'm particularly keen to have a look at. But yeah, look, very happy that it's actually finally arrived. As per usual, the delivery driver gave me 12 minutes notice and I was sitting at my desk on the other side of town, but you rush home because it's a pretty important delivery to take. So obviously I've got a bit of a storage problem with all these car parts, and look, my missus is absolutely amazing in the way that she puts up with this type of stuff. I've only gotten in trouble once when I put a set of wheels in the dishwasher, and the other day she did mention to me when all this stuff was stacked up here that there was quite a few car parts in the living room. And I have to say that I've got the front clip on the spare bed in our spare room because we're somewhat limited for space here, and I don't exactly want to put any of this stuff outside. So what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just wrap this stuff up in Christmas wrapping and pretend half of it are presents for her for Christmas and stick them under the Christmas tree. So that's my way of getting around the car part problem without her noticing. We'll see how that goes. It shouldn't be an issue until December 25th. I better make sure I get her a decent present. So we'll just stick a set of spark plugs in the new motor, partially because I just want to seal up the holes, but also because I needed to get a fresh air in there. Before you go and get anything dyno tuned, one of the things that will really annoy your tuner is if you turn up with stuff that's potentially a source of frustration or sort of like false sort of readings. So you almost certainly need to make sure you have fresh fuel and fresh plugs as a bare minimum. Just check that everything else is operating as it should, because it's just a waste of time and it's very expensive for you to head down to the tuner for him to run into troubles. The other thing which, actually, now that I'm standing here I can think of, I keep a lot of useless shit, but here we go. Let's have a look at this. There's actually some pretty good information out there on terms of what you can actually do to read your spark plugs to see if you're running rich or you're running lean and this sort of stuff. This one here, I don't know why I kept it. It's actually out of an old magazine from a car club that my old man's a part of. Part of the 105 actually comes from this. We've got a 1938 standard, which was the 105th car registered in our state. Now there's probably like 1 million cars that have been registered here, but that's where the 105 comes from anyway. But that's by the by. Anyhow, this is just some information that can tell you about how your motor's been running, just relative to pulling a plug and having a quick look. As much as it's sort of an old tech way of seeing how your tuning's going, it's something that's pretty reliable and probably used by a lot of people still to this day. So what I might do is I might just take a scan or a picture of this, and I'll stick this up in the comments so people can have a look at it. It can be very useful in terms of diagnosing any issues that you're having with your car. So anyhow, we'll get stuck back into it. Just fitting the seat runners to these things, and I have to say the quality of these seats is pretty amazing. I almost ordered full carbon fibre tillets, and to be honest with you, these aren't going to be much heavier, and they certainly look quite a bit more comfortable, and the material quality looks really good. This Alcantara and the perforated leather looks bloody immaculate. So really happy with these. I wouldn't exchange them for anything at this stage. Alright, so there's the floor section in. That's what it would look like if you weren't going to carpet it. I am going to carpet it, so all of this nice paneling and all the hard work will be hidden to some extent, but it is what it is. Now we're just going to install this shifter. It just sits on a base plate here. It's riveted and riv nutted into position, and there'll also be the standard or obligatory bit of bond and seal. I just wanted to sit in here and make sure that I was going to be sort of comfortable with where the shifter was going to sit, and sort of get a good idea for the setting position. This is the first time I've actually ever sat in an Ultima, so it's quite a good bit of fun. I'll probably sit in here later and spend 3 hours drinking some beers or something like that, just to enjoy the moment. But look, we'll get this stuff into place. I think you'll agree that it'll look pretty good. I'm trying to make sure I've got everything that I need in the cabin, because I sort of have to work from in here, and getting in and out is very difficult, especially when it's elevated. These are the 2 shrouds that sort of sit around the shifter there. You still get a good view of the exposed linkage, which is really nice. But look, we'll get into it, and I'll sort of do a bit of a time lapse of just getting this installed and positioned. Now, I know I said I was going to get the seats installed this week, but I am running out of time. The main reason is just that I've got to cut this shroud in, and it's going to take quite a bit of time and some fine tuning just to get that exactly right, because I want that fit to be very, very close tolerance. That'll just save until next video, I guess. But otherwise, look, it's starting to come together in the interior there quite well. The winner this week of the Kinetic Customs hammer is a guy named Nick, who's building a Westfield. It's not this exact hammer because that's mine, but it's one very similar, and it's got 105 stamped into the side of it, which is very nice of those guys to do for me. Yeah, look, just Nick, send me a picture of your car or something like that, so that I know it's not a hoax, and hopefully it'll help you get building. The other thing which is pretty cool, which has turned up, is my steering wheel here with the wheel mounted controls. Now, this is one of the only properly wireless systems that you can get. You'll see most of the other ones have a catenary electrical wire running in, sort of like one of those looped wires running back to a controller, whereas these Summit Technologies ones are properly wireless. They have a battery that sort of sits in there and a controller, so that's pretty cool. I was actually chatting to Lee about this, and he very generously has actually sent me one of these to give away. So when I run over the video on how to install this and sort of what you can do with that controller, I'll have the opportunity to give it away. So it's a slightly different version, but it's actually the one that I already bought for the Ultima. So that's really amazing of him. They do a lot of stuff for, you know, GT series racing and that sort of thing. So these are a high level piece of equipment that you would see in some pretty fancy race cars. So look, I'd have to say thanks a lot to Summit Technologies for providing that. I don't do any advertisements or anything like that, but he liked the idea that I was giving some stuff away, sort of doing this for the sake of, I guess, helping out other people building cars, and he wanted to jump on board with that, which is very generous. The advantage being is that I'd already bought one, so it's not like I'd ever recommend anything that I wouldn't actually put in a car myself, and I was already putting one in, so it sort of works out quite well in that sense. But yeah, so keep sharing your projects, and I'll keep giving stuff away. That one's going to be pretty amazing. Obviously, I don't know when I'll get to it, but we're not too far away, so it's going to be somewhere in the next few videos. We'll get on to that, and I'll give that one away and send it to someone to use. Anyhow, thanks very much for watching. Until next video, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll start to move on to potentially getting some of the suspension installed. I'll talk about how the steering rack goes in and how you can actually do a proper alignment or a string alignment, and stuff like bump steer and how that's going to affect handling. And we'll also get stuck into some wiring and talk about some of the sensors and how we wire them in, and how you can I guess make sure that they're working properly and all of that sort of stuff as well. But all the best, thanks very much.